Good morning. This is Monday morning, the 6th of May, 2024. And this goes out to all the YouTube watchers. I want to show you, if you think it's harmless to sign the dotted line with an HOA, please watch this video. This is a lawsuit that was delivered to me 2 months ago, around the 6th, the first week of March. This all started, or February. But I want to let you know, this is, I'm going to show you some flaws in this HOA lawsuit and the way the law is set up here in Arizona or any state. Okay, but this is a lawsuit. The first page introduces this lawyer, Austin Ballio. He's the first lawyer that was assigned to start doing things at my lot. And I saw him walk onto my property. I confronted him after he walked off of my property. I had a conversation with him for about a minute, where I was very loudly asking him who he was. He wouldn't give me his name. He wouldn't tell me what he was doing on my property. I got so loud that another golfer that was down on the green came up and became this guy's buddy, and told me that he could walk on my property anytime I want, that more or less any golfer can walk on my property anytime they want. So it degraded, but this lawyer here, Austin Ballio, went around April 20th on a Saturday afternoon, walked onto my property. I saw him from my living room in the mirror, and I went out and confronted him. And it's all this mumbo jumbo. He's the one that's bringing the lawsuit. I'm sure he's a young person, maybe the most junior man of the lawyers team. You're here notified. This is all the conditions, and the date of this is January 24th. He didn't sign it. I think that's kind of unusual that he's bringing a lawsuit against me. He's starting it for this legal agency and the plaintiff, Sundance, and he's more or less told me, if you don't apply, it's all the rules for scaring me that if you don't comply with this, okay, but no signature. This is a official court document brought by Austin Ballio, and he never signed it, but there's a stamp here. January 24. Now we're going to go, and this was turned over. Austin Ballio, that's the only part of the lawsuit that he's really talked about. Okay? Now we go to another lawyer whose name is Trevor Ash. And Trevor Ash was the lawyer that you heard on the recording with the judge 3 weeks ago. And I want to make the statement right now that anybody that's following this and saw the interview with the judge requested from me, and I gave the judge and the lawyer in good faith my phone number. And I won't go over it a lot, but I made a video how this makes it sound like I've got a lighthouse in my yard. But this Austin Ballio, 3 years later, now this document by Austin Ballio was written right here on the 17th day of January, 2024. This is Caroline Clinton's deposition, 1/12/24. And she says here, more or less, I won't read it, it's a lot of legalese, but what she's saying is, I believe, right here, matter to believe them to be true according to the books and records of the plaintiff. Okay, the debt allowed to the complaint is just, due, owing, and all lawful payments. But this is her statement, and that was made on the 12th of 24. Now, if you saw the interview with the judge, Trevor Ash made it sound like that the lighthouse was still on the property line. It wasn't. It was taken down 2 years before. But the first 10-15 minutes of that interview was talking about a lighthouse that wasn't there. All Caroline Clinton had to do and Trevor Ash is come over to my lot the day before they issued this lawsuit and see that the lighthouse isn't there. But in this description, Mr. Ash, through this whole statement, all he talks about is the HOA's responsibility to keep all the common areas and all the areas that belong to the HOA and under their control, that they have to be kept up. And that's why they're coming after me, because I did something without asking. Okay? And I'm going to go right now to, he went one by one, and this is where I'm going to start right here. Okay? On or about April 20th, 2021, that's 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, a representative of the association noticed that the declarant had installed a large above-ground decorative feature without seeking approval from the Architectural Committee in violation of Article 8, Section Declarant. Specifically, the defendant placed an approximately 7-foot tall concrete replica of a lighthouse in his backyard. Now, an additional violation were noticed same time, including a pile of sandbags in the defendant's backyard and several large wind chimes defendant in the gutters, according about April 20th. Now, he's saying that all this was described to me in April 20th. Well, I'm going to go to April 20th, 38. I believe it's 38. We'll show you what they wrote to me on April 20th. Okay? Now, April 20th says it's mailed to Seward Lasham, 233 West Twilight Trail. And I want to show you what it says there. Any exterior change to the appearance of your property must be submitted for approval in accordance with the CC&R and design guideline. Please submit architectural approval. And that's the only thing. The rest describes that in 14 days we can fine you, and if, it's all about the penalty phase. But this is the only thing that they didn't say anything about a lighthouse. They didn't say anything about wind chimes. They didn't say anything about a sandbag. This was very vague, ambiguous, non-specific about what I was doing to my yard. And that lighthouse had been in my yard for over 10 years in one place or another. If it wasn't here, it was there, but it was always in my yard, a lighthouse, and I never got a letter on a lighthouse before. Now we're going to go back to page 5 to Mr. Trevor Ash at present. Now, he wrote this letter 3 months ago about this letter that was written over 3 years ago. And he got it wrong. He's saying that they told me all about what was on the, and they didn't. Okay? So, let's try another one. All right, now he says, on or about May 11th, 2021, the association mailed defendant a second notice I might have went over a little too far. Second notice of violation for the lighthouse replica, sandbag, and wind chimes. This letter also notified defendant that the association was issuing a fine of $50 for failure to bring the property into compliance. Okay, that vague letter. Okay, let's see. May 11th, page 40. Let's go to page 40 and see what they sent me. Now this is the actual May 11th letter. Like I said, 3 years old. Trevor Ash wasn't here 3 years ago. Trevor Ash is sitting in an office trying to write up this violation, and he's telling me, he's telling the court and telling everybody that they told him about the wind chimes and the lighthouse and the sandbags on May 11th. Here's May 11th. Here's all this bullcrap here, BS about the responsibility, and we have all these responsibility, and we have guidelines and everything. But here is the complaint. It's the exact same one from the month ago. Non-specific, no detail, not telling me anything. It's a quote. It's exactly what they said the month before. Any exterior change to the appearance of your property must be submitted for approval in accordance with the CC&Rs and the design guidelines. Please submit for architectural approval. Now, if we go back to page 5, Trevor Ash said that on May 5th, this is May 5th, 2021, he's saying that on May 5th, 2021, there it is, April 20. There. May 11th. May 11th, 2021. He's saying that right here. What's this say? This was written a couple of months ago. He's trying to condense and make sense of the letters that were written 3 years ago. Let me repeat. On or about May 11th, 2021, the associate mailed defendant second notice of violation for the lighthouse replica, sandbag, and wind chime. This letter also notified defendant the associate was issuing a $50 fine for defendant's failure to bring property into compliance with the declaration after receipt of the April 20 courtesy notice. Same language. Same language as April 20th on May 13th. or May 11th. Same language. Nothing telling me anything. Now I'm going to go and show you what. We'll go back to April 143. 38, 85, 86, 143. Let's see what we get with 143. This isn't easy to put together. I'm very, I don't like this language that they're using. All right, now we'll go to July 12th. Okay, now he says on July 12th, the association issued a third violation letter, defendant for unapproved non-compliance. Defendant also issued a $75 fine, failure to bring his property into compliance. All right, that was in July 12th. So let's go to July 12th here and see what they have to say about July 12th. Now, this is a July 12th letter mailed to Seward Lasham. Here's all the yada yada, all the BS bullcrap, but here's the violation. Again, a carbon copy of the first two. Any exterior change to the appearance of your property must be submitted for approval in accordance with the CC&R design guidelines. Please submit architectural approval. Now, this lawyer 3 years later in January of 2024 is telling me that in July 12th of 2021 that they gave me all the information I need to correct my yard, and there's nothing here. Another vague, ambiguous, all right? And it's the exact same language of the first three letters. April 20th, May 11th, this is what's on here. No description of what's wrong with my yard. Okay? So now we'll go back to page 5, and I want to go to October. Page 5. On April 20th, May 11th, July 12th, we've covered 3 letters they've sent. Now, on October 8th, this is 4 letters now over a 6 month period. And on October 8th, the association issued a 4th letter to defendant for unimproved, non-compliant additions to his property. This letter also notified defendant that the association was issuing a fine of $100 for the defendant failure to bring his property into compliance with declaration after receipt of previous letters. Okay, so he's saying that they've given me all the information I need to do my yard. Now we'll go to October 8th, page 44, and I'll show you what they said on October 8th, page 44. The word games, the semantics, what I want, gamesmanship. All right, here we are, mailed October 8th to Seward Lasham. And All the yada yada, all the rules of the HOA, all the stuff with the HOA is here, but this is the complaint. So this is 4 letters in a row that I've received from the HOA with not one description of what's wrong with the yard. No mention of a lighthouse, no mention of a wind chime, no mention of sandbags, nothing. This is 4 letters over a 6-month period, and they still haven't told me what's wrong with my yard. What's wrong with my yard is they screwed up the drainage on it years ago. Okay, now I'm going to go back to page 5 again. And we'll get to April, May, October, January. Okay? Now, like, I want to remind you, this Trevor Ash took over this lawsuit from Austin Ballio. I don't know why Austin Ballio wrote the first letter and didn't sign it. But Trevor Ash, and now he's got the ball and he's running with it. On or about January 26th, and representatives from the association noticed that in addition to the lighthouse replica and unapproved wind chime, the defendant had poured a large pile of gravel in his backyard, placed chairs on top of it. This gravel was apparently what was in sandbags that had been previously been observed on the defendant's property. They may have been observed on the property, but they never wrote them up. They're telling him I had all this stuff on my property, and for 6 months they told me every month or every other month that I had these things on my, and I didn't. There was no mention of sandbags. There was no mention of a lighthouse. The first time the lighthouse got mentioned anywhere is in January of 2024. That's when they finally, now let's go to January of 2021, page 46, and see what they said on it. See what they said on it. Page 46. This is all in the summons. Okay, January 26th. They don't put a lot of words on paper. Here's all the yada, the rules of the road. This is telling me I'm going to be fined. But here, in recent months, we have sent a number of violation notices regarding to the changes you have made in your rear yard without the approval of the Architectural Committee. We have received no response or action in these letters. Please either put the grade of your rear yard back to its original and remove the hill and all other changes you have made, including plants and yard art. File an application with the Architectural Committee for changes if you have made. Any exterior changes, appearance, here we go. So they added 2 lines, okay? And nothing mentioned about wind chimes, nothing mentioned about lighthouse. They talk about the grading of the yard. The yard is so grossly graded wrong by the builder. I've been pushing a rock uphill to get my yard to drain for 10 years properly. They built it to retain water. Okay? I have all the proof that I need. I have the permits. I have the plans, the blueprints. They took a shortcut here 10 years ago. They made me it. I had a third surveyor with 35 years experience tell me, he said, they made you a dumping ground for water up here. You're retaining the water on your lot that's supposed to run onto the golf course. That's what I've been working on for years. Okay, but here again, and the $100 fine, and each one of these at the bottom, they say I didn't pay the fine. After every one of these that mentions the fine, Trevor Ash says, and he didn't pay the fine. I paid every fine. Okay? Now, I want to go to, remember, April 20th started all this. Okay? April 20th started all this. And I want to go to what the letter they sent on April 20th. 143. Let's see if that's the letter. Here's April 20th, 21. This is the letter. This is the letter they sent. Okay? They sent it to my friend who was living in my house. She was living in my house. She was a registered guest. I had sent a letter, certified mail to them, registering her as a guest of mine, living in my house indefinitely. So instead of mailing the letter, I didn't get the letter. It was mailed to resident, even though Trevor Ash is showing this on the lawsuit, a letter mailed to me on the 20th. It didn't get mailed to me on the 20th. It got mailed to my girlfriend who was living in this house at the time. It got mailed to her, resident. And here's what we did. Here's what we did immediately the next day. Immediately the next day. First of all, there's the certified mail. We sent a letter back to her. Cost us $11 to send a letter. There it is, Sundance Community. She addressed it, but I'm going to read this letter that she wrote. This is a classy lady. This is a lady we're all senior citizens. We're not used to young people being careless. Caroline Clinton, community manager. Okay, AAM. And there's the address. To whom it may concern. I'm going to brutalize this. I always do. I do not understand why you would send me Seward Lasham's personal information. I resent being dragged into what should be between you and him. Why did you not send this to him? I do know he is valiantly valiantly trying by himself to repair the compromised drainage system. I feel it is against the law to read mail that it is intended for someone else. Please see this doesn't happen again. This resident name is Jean Riggio. She was registered as the person living in this house at the time. We immediately sent this letter. She was upset. She brought this letter to me because I didn't get the letter. Even though they show here in this lawsuit that I got the letter, it was sent to Jean Riggio at resident. And so there it is. We immediately sent her a letter saying, don't send, I'm the registered owner. All the other letters came to my house, but that first letter went to Jean's house as resident. The next letter started coming to me. Now I've got my own opinion of why the HOAs have so much power. They're a government. I send them dues to be my government. I rely on them to keep all the common areas compliant to the master documents. I rely on them for relief if I find something wrong that's contradictory to the master document. The HOA is worried more about cosmetics of the neighborhood and a theme. The theme here is golf. Let's face it. Golf is the theme. All right. The golf course rules. When I put those sandbags on my yard, I did that as self-defense. I've been sending letters, videos, I've gone to meetings, I've done everything I can but spit coins, gold coins, and do somersaults to make the golf shop and the HOA understand that I walk point over here every day. And I get golf balls in my yard every day. And I've got people walking and trespassing in my yard and challenging me and making fun of me and calling me an old dinosaur because I care about people walking in my yards. And the one reason that I got people walking in my yard all the time is the tee boxes on the 6th hole. They put the senior tee box, the silver tees, most of the time as far back and as far to the right as they can. That puts me, and then when they put the pin on the right side of the green, everybody is aiming to the right side of the green. I get balls in my yard and trespassing all the time. That's why I put those sandbags and that sitting area there to stop. First of all, when the people are on the tee and there's nothing on the corner of my yard, no chairs, no anything, they think my yard is golf course. I put the chairs there to remind golfers that this is a living unit right here. The living unit starts right here on this corner. So any thought that you're free to hit one up here and you can save your ball by walking into my yard. If it goes into my yard, you can walk right over the corner of my lot. That happens so many times. I've got video of people walking over the corner of my lot. That's the first place they go. And the golf shop is not giving me any remedy or relief. I got hit yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday. They warned of strong winds yesterday. Well, we had strong winds yesterday afternoon. And my house got hit again. 4 years later, after all this bullshit, there was 6 guys on the 6th tee. They warned the weather that the winds were going to blow hard. Well, they did. The wind was blowing really hard out of the southwest. And 6 guys up on that far tee, one of them hit my house yesterday. Why'd he hit my house? Because he's got a fade. He's hitting a fade into a strong left to right wind. A really strong wind yesterday. The weatherman reported we're going to have 40-mile-an-hour winds in the valley. And that's what put that ball, that's what hit my house yesterday. These guys were goofing around, and I don't know, I didn't have a camera or watching them, but they might have all hit 2 or 3 balls each, which they often do. This is ridiculous. This fine is an anachronism. It's out of time and out of date. It's out of time and out of date. It should have never been brought. You've got Trevor Ash as a relief pitcher. He came in relief of, and he's writing about letters that were written 3 years ago, and he didn't read them. If he would have read each letter, he would have seen that on each letter, nothing was said about a lighthouse. The first time the lighthouse was mentioned was in January of 24 when they brought this lighthouse. Now all of a sudden the lighthouse it's visible. And like I said, we wasted 12 to 14 minutes of my half an hour hearing with the judge talking about a lighthouse that wasn't there. I feel the judge and the lawyer scripted that conversation. They scripted it before they ever talked to me. I feel like as soon as I got on the phone, they decided we're going to go into the lighthouse routine. I'll just keep asking them questions. The lighthouse wasn't there. The lighthouse hasn't been there for 2 years. Please, learn from my experience out there. I'm going to say something about President Trump here. Oh, I said president, ex-president, okay? He's not the president. But I want to tell you something about him and what's going on here. I'm President Trump in Arizona. All the Trump heads, all the MAGA heads, all the MAGA people in Arizona cry every day that they're hanging Donald Trump. They're trying to get him convicted, that they're doing election interference. All they do is about how fair New York is treating Donald Trump. What's the difference? I'm in MAGA land, and they got a never-Trumper in MAGA land. It's like we got a little New Yorker here. We got a little New Yorker. We're going to do to this New Yorker what the New Yorkers are doing to our MAGA president. All right? Half of my neighborhood, just about all of it, I'd say 90%, 99%, I told you before, of my Sundance active adult community are Midwest, from farms, bucolic places. They don't want to accept an urban plan. My neighbors next door to me that live on Tract A refuse to accept the urban plan that they live on an access easement for golf carts, emergency vehicles, emergency rescue vehicles, and maintenance vehicles and pedestrians. They want to bring their bucolic country lifestyle here. And when this plan got out here 20 years ago, it was a very sophisticated urban plan. It had been planned in northern Phoenix. They had all the bells and whistles for urban model community. That means every parcel had an ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. Every parcel had ingress and egress for cart paths. Every parcel had ingress and egress for maintenance vehicles and pedestrians. That is the way it was advertised in all their brochures, that everybody was going to have access to walking trails, miles of walking trails. They even had a cart path going up to lot 318 that made everybody think that this is the cart path that you're going to use to get into parcel 12. This was a flim-flam. And when we get to the bottom of this, if I can get to the bottom and read you a few lines of what Trevor Ash wants to say. Trevor Ash more or less gives the Sundance Active Adult Community, the HOA, complete immunity for everything that's done out here. Whether the easements are there or not there, whether they agree with the plat map, if they don't agree with the plat map, whether they agree with the blueprinted CC&Rs. My house, I've spent 10 years diffusing a time bomb, a booby trap. They sabotaged my house and lot 20 years ago. When they found out my name was on the purchase agreement for this house and this lot, they tampered with it. The old boys club, the old goats who I outbid, the old goats that had bids in for this lot that were less than full price. When they found out I made a full price offer and the lot was mine, the old goats went downtown and they decided we're gonna fill in tract A and we're gonna make him the drain. So I've been a drain. The first 8 years I was here, I was a drain. I was storing all the water under my house and on my lot that was supposed to go onto the golf course. Any changes that I've made over the years, I had to make to 2 lots. I had 315 first. I did all the changes to that. I got it to drain. I made the landscaping good. I replaced the water lines so you wouldn't have leaks anymore. I worked on that yard for about 5 years. Both yards for 5 years. And now I'm getting a lawsuit over letters that were sent 3 years ago, and the lawsuit here, what he described, isn't in the letters. It's like he never read the letters. And for Carolyn Clinton to review the lawsuit, what she said in her deposition is, I've reviewed the lawsuit. I agree with everything in it. I agree with all the rules and all the power and authority that the HOA has to do this to Mr. Lasham. The HOA doesn't have a receipt from me for anything of a letter being delivered. These HOAs in Arizona are getting away with murder. They're sending out letters for general postage. That letter, all 4 or 5 of these letters, and every letter I get from the HOA, it's not a certified letter, and it's not a certified return receipt letter. And neither are the lawyer letters. Now, when I got served a summons, I had to have a court server serve me that summons. When your county government or your city government comes after you and they put a fine or injunction or anything against you, any legal thing, it has to be done with a certified letter, return receipt. They have to have proof that you got notified of these actions. The HOAs, if they had to send out a certified return receipt for every fine they issued and for every courtesy notice with a threat of fine, the letters that have the threat of a fine and a fine on them are standalone legal documents. And the HOAs in Arizona, especially Sundance HOA, they can fine you. They can make the statement, we're going to fine you so much, and hold you to it, and make you responsible to pay the fine, and punish you if you don't pay the fine. And they're doing it with general delivery. General delivery. They don't have one receipt from me where I've signed for a letter where I've been informed that starting on this date, in 2 weeks, we will start fining you. That's a standalone legal document. It shouldn't be allowed to be sent out general mail, because you have to have proof that I have that document. I get letters in my mailbox about once every 3 months. I get a letter that's meant for somebody else. I've had letters go to other people. The person that was living next to me about 4 years ago, I lost my license. I misplaced it or whatever. I had to get a new one. And instead of my license that was addressed properly, it was addressed to me in my address, it went to the house next door. Thank God I had a neighbor who was honest. He immediately brought it over and he says, I don't know why it came to me, but it's got your address on it and it's yours, and he gave it to me. It goes on all the time. You have replacement. You have substitute mailman. All right? Our mailboxes are like a mailbox in an apartment building in New York. They all open them up at once and he starts throwing. But the HOA hasn't got one receipt from me, not one signed receipt from me where I've received one of these letters. And if the industry would change, and they make a statute for the HOAs that anytime you threaten, it may be a courtesy letter, but if there's a threat for a fine or a notice of a fine or a notice of a pending fine, that's a legal document. That's going to put an encumbrance and encroachment on you. We can't trust the mail with something that important. And that's what's happening in Arizona. If she gets 80 discrepancies a week, when the people go out and inspect the houses once a week and they come up with 80 discrepancies for her, now if she had to send those discrepancies out at $17 a piece, like I pay when I send my checks in, the last 5 checks that I've sent to the HOA for my dues, because of this legal deal I'm into with them, because of this lawsuit, and I've been being fined $100 a day. I'm up to over $55,000 in fines plus this lawsuit. And they don't have one receipt from me that I received the notification. They send these things out for 52 cents. If they get there, they do. If they don't, they don't. Okay? This is industry-wide in Arizona. If they ever pass a statute in Arizona that says whenever you send a fine notification, a courtesy notification, this is an official legal document. It's to be treated as an official legal document. There are penalties involved, both monetary and restrictions. You have to make sure that I got that letter. And here in Arizona, until they put a statute that no fine letters, no courtesy notices, no restrictions on your membership should be sent, unless they're sent certified mail, return receipt. They're taking for granted that all these letters are getting out, and then if the letter doesn't show up, they fine them. Or they send the letter to the resident. Gamesmanship. That first letter that started all this, April 20th, they sent it to the wrong house. And they had it labeled resident. My girlfriend was immediately upset. She brought it over. Why am I getting all this stuff about your business with the HOA? I thought they knew that I lived here. You sent them a letter saying I lived here. Why am I getting this letter? Why? Because they're doing everything on the cheap. These HOAs are getting away with murder. They're getting away with murder. Now this guy right here, this Trevor Ash, at the end of his statement is he wants all his legal fees paid, and he's asked the court to penalize me to the maximum they can penalize me. This is forfeiture. They're trying to take over my house. They've got me up to $60,000 on my invoices, and When I send in the checks, they're not crediting my checks. I go to the trouble. The last 5 checks I've sent in have been return receipt, registered mail, certified mail. And when I get the bill, I look at the accounting, and they're not debiting my account when the check arrives. At the end of the pay period, they charge my account $326, and when the check comes in at the beginning of the next pay period, so every bill at the beginning, at the top of the beginning of the pay period, there's a $326 charge, and at the bottom, there's another $306 charge, $326. They're charging me twice, and the balance goes up with each charge. The balance goes up. I've had accounting. I took accounting in college. Who's ever making this bill isn't doing it right. And I've got on my bill where the bill didn't get paid. I got a late fee penalty. I got the canceled check where the canceled check went through 2 weeks before the bill was before the bill was even due. It was due on the 1st. The check went through like on the 26th or 28th of December, but I got charged the late fee for it. Please, anybody out there in HOA land, YouTube land, I get a little confused. I get a little run over myself. I have trouble with words. I'm not the most eloquent person. I don't have lawyer credentials, and I don't have a lawyer team. And I want to reiterate that it's been over 3 weeks, and I still haven't got any call from a lawyer. The judge specifically asked me, do you mind giving the lawyer your number so he can call you? And in good faith, thinking, yeah, he will call me. If I give him the number, sure. He hasn't called. He hasn't called because he's got me fighting this case by myself. Everything has gone wrong since this has started. I went to use my printer one day. I had unplugged it for about a month. I had to install new drivers. That was a whole day fooling with the printer. I've had my car problems. Now I got a cataract. I just found out I got a cataract. I have to see a urologist and a skin specialist. I want to get all this done, and I can't do it because I'm paralyzed with this lawsuit. I haven't got a clue. They know it. They know I'm going to show up in court empty, naked, without a clue. And them and the judge are going to put a monetary on me, a monetary fine or a restriction on me over a lighthouse that was taken down 2 years before, over letters that were misquoted by the lawyer. He misquoted the letter on May 11th. He said on May 11th they told me about the lighthouse, the wind chimes, and the sandbag. There was nothing in there. Vague, ambiguous. I worked on airplanes for 30 years as a licensed mechanic. This wouldn't have went over with the FAA. The FAA would have, if somebody would have put up wrote a write-up like that, there's something wrong in the back of the plane, go find what it is and it'll tell us and fix it. The FAA would have said, can you be a little more specific? All you're telling him is there's something in his backyard you don't like. And yet now you're making him, and you're not telling him what it is. They never told me. Nothing was said about anything. The lighthouse was never mentioned. The first time the lighthouse got mentioned was in 2024, 3 years after these letters were written. I'm going to close now. I hope I got enough content to you people understand just, like I said, about President Trump or Donald Trump. Everybody says He isn't going to do that. I want to make you all understand. He's a Nazi. He's talking Nazi. Him and Steve Bannon and the rest of his cronies are going to turn this into martial law. Okay? And when you talk to these naive people out west they're into their horses, they're into this, they're into that, they don't really care about politics like people from the east. People in New York are talking politics all the time. Massachusetts, New York, they're always talking about it because they're networking all the time. People out west are so disconnected. You're so free out here. And your attitude is, Donald Trump isn't going to do that. He isn't going to make this a dictatorship. He isn't going to do that. Well, I want to let you know, a lot of people that went into the HOA, me included, what could they do? They're not going to do this. If I obey the rules and I do what I'm told and everything and I pay my dues, what trouble would they have with me? The trouble that I have with the HOA is our parcel is out of compliance with the master plan. It's out of compliance with the plat map. And my lot, through due diligence, studying plans, studying manuals, and finally getting my hand on the building permit for my lot, I found out that they lowered my house, which lowered my sewer pipes, which compromised my sewer pipe. They lowered my house 2.5 inches. And they screwed up all the property lines. All the elevations for the property lines got screwed up, and they're out of compliance with the master grading plan. And when they did that, they made my lot the storage for water above the golf course. Some of my first discussions with the HOA were, when is Tract A going to be open? How come Tract A isn't open for me to use with my golf cart? How come there's a golf cart path going up to parcel 12 with a tree at the end of it? Why wasn't that path put there? When I bought the house, I saw that path. That path told me that I'm going to be able to drive my golf cart into the parcel here. Nothing was further from the truth. This was cronyism. Buckeye graft. Let me tell you about Buckeye. I've been dealing with people from the county. One of the first people I ever called was Maricopa County Flood Control. He got on the map, the satellite map, like I did. And I showed him Tract A. It was filled in with trees and shrubs. And he understood. He says, that's out of compliance. He told me right there, he goes, you're absolutely right. It's out of compliance. And I was tickled. I said, what are you going to do about it? He says, we don't have any jurisdiction in Buckeye. Buckeye, it's its own little state. Its own little sovereign nation. It doesn't answer to any overview from any civil engineering, any kind of oversight from the state or county. Buckeye is exempt. They're their own little sovereign nation. And I've had letters from the HOA. I sent them a letter about my drainage, and they said, we don't have any control, and we can't help you set the elevations for your property line. You have to go to the city. I've been to the city. The city won't talk to me. When I give them my name on the second floor in Monroe Street, City Hall, when I give them my name, they don't talk to me. Everybody in civil engineering on the second floor knows what happened out here. And they all know that because of the politics, the golf politics out here 20 years ago, the cronyism, that Tract A was redlined. It was segregated. It was co-opted. It was stolen fair and square. It was made a farm for the people living on each side. They brought their farm with them. They brought their privacy with them to an urban model. This urban model, when it got here 20 years ago, got mutilated by the locals. They turned a sophisticated urban model with all the bells and whistles in it. They bucolic it. They made it bucolic. They took half of the bells and whistles out. Right? We got people from the Midwest that are going to be buying here. We got people with big land holdings, farms, and orchards in the Midwest. They don't want to see people going by their house in a golf cart. Well, if you don't want to see people going by your house in a golf cart, then go buy another house. And put the plat map back where it was. But right now, I'm paralyzed. My house right now, I don't know what to do. I got piles of paper everywhere. And, like I said, the lawyer who I gave the phone number to 3 weeks ago hasn't called me. He's not going to help me. Nobody's going to help me. We're going to take you to the cleaners. You're going to have to forfeit your house to us. If we get a big enough monetary value against you and you can't pay it, then we're going to foreclose on your house. We're going to auction it off. We're going to auction it off to one of our friends, a lowballer, another Midwesterner coming in here, an old goat, a lodge brother is going to take my house that I've been working on for 10 years. You did this to the wrong guy. I'm going to keep making videos forever. And this house is going to be nationally famous for being out of compliance. It's going to be a national icon, a poster child for corruption and graft inside of an HOA. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.